There is a reason why the Stoics believed in restraint, not only in emotion, but in exposure. The modern world teaches us that availability is a virtue. Respond quickly. Say yes, often be open to everyone and everything, but the Stoics teach something far older, far wiser. Be guarded, not because you are cold or indifferent, but because you are aware of what you must protect the self. We live in an age of unfiltered access at all times. We are bombarded with messages, invitations, distractions, and demands on our time and presence. People knock on the door of your attention every day, and many of us, in a misguided attempt to be kind or to maintain social standing, leave the door wide open. But here is the truth. Not everyone deserves access to you. Not every invitation deserves a yes. Not every interaction deserves your energy, and in your attempt to be liked, to be seen, to be included, you risk becoming diluted. There are two types of people: the introvert who guards their solitude like a sacred ritual, and the extrovert who thrives in the open field of social activity. But the Stoic lives in the space between. They engage when necessary, they retreat when wise, and they always return to the citadel of the self. It is there that strength is cultivated, clarity is preserved, and peace is maintained. Let us now explore why the Stoic does not make themselves so accessible. Not as an act of arrogance, but as a form of preservation and power. Chapter 1: The Paradox of Presence. The irony of social life is this: the more available you are, the less valuable your presence becomes, like a song on repeat. The constant exposure of the self breeds familiarity, and familiarity, in many cases, breeds indifference. When people get too much of something, even something once cherished, it often loses its shine. We must not allow our presence to become noise in someone else's background, because what is constant often fades into invisibility. This is not a reflection of our worth, but of how human perception works. Too much access leads to too little appreciation. Stoic understands this paradox to be of value. One must not always be seen. There must be space. There must be pause. There must be moments of absence so that presence can carry weight. The rhythm of engagement and withdrawal creates texture and meaning in our interactions. Absence is not neglect. It is refinement. It is the invisible brush stroke that makes presence vivid. It is what gives shape to substance, what gives voice to silence, what gives respect to boundaries. Presence becomes a gift only when it is not an expectation. It becomes sacred when it is earned, not given automatically. When you are always available, your presence becomes assumed, even taken for granted. But when you appear with intention, your presence feels earned, significant, worthy of attention, a well-timed appearance, a word spoken in a moment of silence. These are not minor details. These are decisions that shape how others experience you and how you experience the world. Constant presence cheapens you, but thoughtful presence elevates you. Presence should not be broadcasted, it should be curated. You must become the editor of your time and energy, sculpting your life with awareness. Ask yourself, when was the last time you said no? Not out of avoidance, but out of intention. When was the last time you created distance? Not out of resentment, but out of wisdom. Too often we confuse kindness with compliance, and we end up giving away the parts of ourselves we should be protecting. We hand over time, energy, and emotional bandwidth without recognizing the cost. The Stoic reminds us that saying no can be an act of self-respect, that pulling away can be a way to recalibrate that. Stepping back allows us to step into our own strength, and in that strength, we learn the difference between being needed and being used. We learn that boundaries aren't barriers, they are definitions of dignity. When people always know where to find you, when to expect you, and how to reach you, you lose your strategic edge, you lose the mystery. And mystery is power. In the eyes of others, your time must appear disciplined, your presence rare, and your energy focused. You must begin to cultivate the art of withdrawal, not as a punishment, but as a pause. A pause that elevates the moment you choose to step back in. That pause creates the impression of depth and consideration, of meaning behind your every move. Each pause becomes an act of design. Each return, a reaffirmation of value to be missed, is not a weakness. It is evidence of meaningful presence. There is a kind of magnetism to rarity. Think of the quiet man in the room who says little but commands attention when he speaks, or the friend who appears only on occasion but whose presence always deepens the conversation. You remember them, you feel their weight, their absence creates anticipation. Their words land with clarity. This is not accidental. It is the fruit of deliberate restraint. It is the decision to act when it counts rather than to react constantly. And in that decision lies immense dignity. The Stoic lives not on the surface of things, but beneath them in the realm of depth, value, and timing. In this, they achieve a kind of presence that outlasts physical nearness. Your time is your currency. If you give it freely to everyone, it becomes devalued. But if you spend it with precision on worthy causes, with honorable people toward virtuous ends, it becomes sacred. The Stoics teach that we are not here to waste ourselves in scattered motions. We are here to build something strong and quiet. Within every hour given away in haste is a moment lost in the crafting of your inner temple. Every impulsive yes can be a thief of deeper purpose, and every moment reclaimed becomes a step toward true ownership of your life. Presence is not simply showing up. Presence is about being rooted, where you stand, about transmitting something deeper than just your location. When you walk into a room, walk in with something real to offer. When you speak, speak from stillness, not noise. Let your life become so rich in thought and self-possession that your presence alone speaks before you do. Let the energy you carry be so grounded that it quiets the room, not by volume, but by weight. Marcus Aurelius said it is not death that a man should fear, but he should fear never beginning. To live and to live fully, one must not be scattered. To begin to truly live, you must reclaim your presence. Make it deliberate. Make it earned. Let it be said of you, not that you were always around, but that when you were present, you brought depth, calm, and significance. That is the mark of a life lived with intention, and that is the quiet strength of one who chooses to not be so accessible. Chapter 2: The Fortress of the Mind. The Stoics believed that the mind is a sacred space. Epictetus taught that we must guard our impressions, for they shape our judgments, and our judgments dictate how we experience life. But how can one guard the mind if the gates are left wide open to every opinion, every invitation, and every demand? Your mind is your stronghold, and like any fortress, it must be fortified. If you lived in a city under constant threat of attack, would you leave the gates unmanned? Would you allow any passerby to enter, speak, and linger? Of course not yet. We do this every day with our presence. When you are constantly accessible online, in person, socially, emotionally, you are vulnerable to invasion. Not all invasions are hostile, but they are still disruptions. They may come softly, disguised as harmless chats, routine check-ins, or casual updates, but the cumulative effect is real. They fragment your day, split your attention, and chip away at the stillness. You need to hear your own thoughts. Each interaction carries with it the weight of influence. You cannot spend your day with fools and expect to become wise. You cannot expose yourself to chaos and expect to maintain inner calm. You cannot soak in noise and expect clarity to emerge. Every conversation, every comment, every piece of content you consume becomes a guest inside the fortress of your mind. And not all guests are worthy of entry. A Stoic sees the necessity of filtering influence. They recognize that the quality of their mind depends on the quality of what they allow into it. They know that to maintain inner clarity, one must guard what enters guarding. The mind isn't about detachment from the world. It's about selective engagement with it. The Stoic does not avoid interaction. They simply do not invite distraction. They are not antisocial. They are intentional. They hold their space with purpose. They examine the cost of every commitment, every conversation, every piece of attention they give away. Just as a disciplined army does not allow random visitors into the war room, a disciplined mind does not permit every stray thought or trivial concern. To linger, the mind must remain a place of order, not a playground. For the impulsive, consider how often your peace is disturbed, not by events themselves, but by the mental clutter that follows them. A stranger's rude comment, a trending controversy, a piece of gossip disguised as news. You let it enter, it stays, it multiplies, it breeds reaction. One thought becomes 10. A simple post becomes an argument. A message becomes anxiety, and all the while your mental clarity, the clarity the Stoics prized above all, is fogged over by noise that was never yours to begin with. You lose sight of your priorities. You feel more reactive, less reflective, and in that state, you no longer lead your life. You are led by it. To live as a Stoic is to choose your company, your conversations, and your commitments with intention. Not to isolate, but to insulate, not to hide. But to preserve the stillness required to think clearly and act wisely, to preserve the sacred interior that is constantly under pressure to externalize. Every moment of mental clarity is earned. It is earned by discipline. It is earned by choosing silence over chatter, reflection over reaction, intention over impulse. Every boundary you set is a small act of rebellion against the culture of immediacy and overstimulation, and in a world that demands constant engagement, even silence is a statement of sovereignty. You do not owe everyone your attention. You do not owe every message a reply. You do not owe every event your attendance, nor every problem your emotional labor. You are allowed to protect your energy, to retreat into your thoughts, to cultivate peace before you engage. To be respected, you must first respect yourself, and that begins by treating your time and presence as something valuable, not disposable. Every yes you utter without discernment is a crack in your fortress. Enough cracks and the structure crumbles. Your inner life collapses under the weight of external chaos, and once that fortress falls rebuilding, it takes time, solitude, and often pain. Remember, the Stoics didn't believe in running from the world. They believed in engaging with it wisely. They understood that power is not in saying yes to everything, but in knowing what to say yes to. That means learning to say, "This is not worth my mind." That means asking before each interaction, "Will this make me better? Will this contribute to the person I am trying to become? Does this deserve space in my sacred interior? If not, it is not worth your fortress. The gate must remain shut. So close the gates, post the guards. Let your attention be earned, not expected. Sit within your walls. And remember that your peace, your clarity, your focus, these are not luxuries. They are responsibilities. They are tools of growth. They are the instruments through which your highest virtues are formed, and the more faithfully you protect them, the more powerfully you can move through the world. Not as someone who reacts to every noise, but as someone who acts from unshakable stillness. Chapter 3, Guarding Your Energy. Energy is not infinite. It is one of the most precious resources you possess. Every conversation, every outing, every casual commitment costs you something. The Stoics knew this well. They didn't avoid life. They avoided waste. They understood that energy, like time, must be directed with precision and purpose, not scattered across obligations. Born of guilt, vanity, or the fear of missing out, Seneca warned against being dragged into the passions of others. He recognized that life becomes disjointed when you allow yourself to be yanked from your path by every whim, every plea, every external urgency. When you are too accessible, you are swept into the winds of other people's chaos. Their emergencies become your distractions. Their drama becomes your dilemma. You start solving problems that are not yours. You begin fighting battles that leave you weary and wondering why you feel so depleted. You start attending events you care little for. You say yes when your soul screams, "No, this is not compassion. This is erosion." You feel drained and you wonder why. It's because you were not made to be endlessly available. You were made to preserve your focus for higher aims. You were made to direct your energy toward your values, your craft, your principles, your calling. The more you allow yourself to be interrupted, the less progress you make in building what truly matters, and where it matters most is in your inner circle, your family, your purpose, your health, your faith. These are the places where your energy yields the greatest return. These are the people and purposes that deserve the most focused version of you, not the version that's been spread thin by meaningless distraction. Imagine a candle burning. The more people you allow to take from that flame, the dimmer your light becomes. Eventually you are left in the dark, wondering what happened to the warmth you once carried. But the Stoic understands this. The Stoic tends to the flame. They keep their light guarded and their fuel reserved for what is worthy. They know that burnout is not a badge of honor. It is a sign of misalignment. Guarding your energy begins with clarity. Clarity about who you are, what you are building, and who you are responsible for. Without that clarity, you will say yes to everything and everyone, believing that your role is to please, to appease, or to rescue. But you are not here to save people from their own lack of boundaries. You are here to honor your highest self. Withdraw. When you need to step back without apology, say no without guilt, be polite but firm. The boundary does not need to be loud to be real. You are not rude for choosing yourself. You are wise. It is not cruelty to decline an invitation that conflicts with your peace. It is not arrogance to protect a weekend for rest or a morning for solitude. It is strength. It is responsibility. You cannot pour from an empty cup, and you should not be expected to. Remember, the energy you bring into a room affects every interaction within it. If you are constantly tired, frustrated, and stretched too thin, what do you have to offer others? Really, a hollow presence is not a gift, it's a ghost. But if you enter from a place of fullness, if you speak from a center of calm and clarity, your presence nourishes everyone around you. And that kind of energy is cultivated, not stumbled upon. So guard your energy like the Stoics did, with quiet discipline and strong inner command. Choose your commitments with care. Examine the cost of every yes. Don't chase every fire, tend to your own here. In doing so, you will have something real to offer when it truly counts. Chapter 4: The Value of Silence and Space. In stillness we find clarity. In silence we meet ourselves. The Stoics practice silence not as escape, but as confrontation. When the noise of life is hushed, the truth begins to speak. You begin to notice thoughts that were buried under layers of distraction. You become aware of what you've been avoiding. Postponing or suppressing the outer silence makes room for an inner reckoning, and from that reckoning comes power. Most people fear silence because they have never made peace with themselves. They keep noise close like a shield. Music always on, notifications always pinging, conversations always flowing, because the idea of being alone with their thoughts is too uncomfortable. But discomfort is not something to avoid. The Stoics knew that discomfort is a teacher. The silence that unsettles you is the silence that reveals you. If you are always accessible, you rob yourself of silence. Your life becomes a series of responses, replies, engagements, and distractions. You lose the thread of your own thought. You drown in the voices of others and forget the sound of your own. There is wisdom that only reveals itself in solitude. There is strength that only emerges in space. There is clarity that only arrives when all else is still true. Strength is not in constant connection. It is in the ability to disconnect with purpose. It is in the courage to unplug, to withdraw, to let go of the illusion that you must always be available in order to be relevant. The Stoic does not fear absence. They embrace it. They create distance not to be aloof, but to be precise, to realign with their principles, to quiet the mind and sharpen the spirit. To create space in your day for reflection is to gift yourself perspective. Even a few minutes of stillness can reset your direction. Like a pond that settles when undisturbed, the mind reveals depth. Only when it is still, the chaos of everyday life muddies the water, but silence clears it. When you stop talking, you begin to listen, and what you hear is often exactly what you need. Distance is not always detachment. It is discipline. It is the choice to step back so you can step inward, to say, I will not be consumed by the pace of others. I will not trade peace for popularity. I will not scatter myself just to be seen. The Stoic understands that solitude is a sacred practice. It is the soil in which self-knowledge grows. It is the space where the soul stretches and remembers who it is without distraction. Be the one who can sit alone and be full. Be the one whose silence speaks louder than noise. Let your absence make people reflect, not forget. Let your solitude deepen your presence. Let your quiet be filled with intention, not avoidance, but alignment. A mind that can sit in silence is a mind that cannot be manipulated. A spirit that thrives alone is a spirit that cannot be broken by loneliness. The more grounded you become in solitude, the less you need validation. The less you crave applause, the less you worry about being forgotten, because you have found something more enduring, a connection to your inner self that no noise can drown. And in that quiet self-sufficiency, true power is born, not the power to control others, but the power to control yourself, the power to stand calm in a storm, the power to speak only when needed, the power to choose your battles and your silence. So practice the art of silence. Welcome space into your life. Set aside moments that are just for you. Protect your mornings. Guard your evenings. Let your mind breathe. Let your heart recalibrate. You will find that in silence, you do not disappear, you deepen. You do not become less, you become more. And the world, when it hears from you again, will hear something stronger, wiser, and more true. Chapter 5: The Inner Circle and the Art of Discernment. Your inner circle is an extension of your soul. It is sacred ground. You must guard it with fierce discernment, for what surrounds you will eventually shape you. The people to you influence your habits, your emotions, and your worldview more than you realize. The Stoics understood this deeply. They knew that proximity is power, and that the wrong company is not simply unhelpful. It is dangerous to the disciplined mind. Not all friends are friends. Not all requests are harmless. Not all invitations are opportunities. Some are tests, some are distractions, some are subtle erosions of your path. The Stoic sees through the fog of social politeness and asks the hard questions. What is this costing me? Who is this person to me? Does this serve the person I'm trying to become? Is this interaction pulling me closer to virtue or dragging me away from it? To cultivate a strong inner life, you must be selective with the outer life. You do not need 100 acquaintances. You need a few good people who sharpen you, uplift you, and walk in truth. A single friend grounded in principle is worth more than a crowd of companions built on convenience. A wise ally will call you higher. A foolish companion will only keep you entertained while you stagnate every yes you give. Outside the circle is a no to something within it. Every dinner you didn't want to attend, it stole an evening from your child. Every conversation you tolerated out of politeness, it took your presence away from someone who truly needed you, the favor you couldn't say no to. It drained you of the energy you needed to write, to pray, to rest, to reflect. These are not small losses. These are spiritual leaks, and over time they empty you of your purpose. You are not just managing a schedule, you are shaping a soul. Your calendar is a mirror of your priorities. Your time is the material from which your character is built. Spend it well. Choose it with courage. Say yes with honor. Say no with dignity. People who love you will understand. People who don't will reveal themselves in how they respond to your boundaries. The inner circle should be chosen slowly and guarded relentlessly. Let trust be earned, not assumed. Let your time with others be purposeful, not performing. The Stoic does not fear. Solitude for solitude reveals the truth about our alliances. In silence, you'll see who shows up in quiet seasons. You'll know who remains. Protecting your peace will often make you unpopular, but it will always make you powerful. Remember, not being accessible to the world is not withdrawal. It is prioritization. It is the wisdom to know what matters and the courage to protect it. It is not arrogance, it is alignment. It is not selfishness, it is stewardship. And in this practice lies your strength, your clarity, and your true influence. Chapter 6: Scarcity creates strength. What is rare is valuable. What is always available becomes ordinary. The Stoics understood this simple truth. Strength is found not in constant exposure, but in deliberate appearance. When something is always present, it fades into the background. When something is rare, it is noticed, considered, respected. Scarcity creates strength because it forces others to pay attention. It demands presence. It increases appreciation. Your presence, when rationed wisely, becomes a force. Not through arrogance, but through self-awareness. When you learn to pull back from the crowd to speak, only when needed to appear, only when necessary, you become someone of consequence. Your voice carries more weight because you don't waste it on trivialities. Your actions stand out because they're not diluted by excess. The Stoics didn't just live, they lived meaningfully, and meaning always begins with restraint. The modern world confuses accessibility with significance, but noise is not influence. Volume is not virtue. Being seen often is not the same as being remembered deeply. The Stoic does not seek to be everywhere. They seek to be impactful wherever they are. It's not breadth that defines them, but depth. The less they appear, the more meaningful their presence becomes, because it's not what they show, it's what they withhold until the moment is right. You do not have to attend every gathering, comment on every conversation, or weigh in on every opinion to be respected. In fact, the opposite is often true. The Stoic does not announce themselves, they carry themselves there. Reputation is not maintained through social performance, but through consistent principle. Their absence often speaks more powerfully than others. Constant noise. Their silence has a shape, their withdrawal has a purpose. Withdraw strategically, be the one who is missed, not the one who is assumed. Let your decisions be so intentional. that your absence still carries influence. Let your value rise in the moments when you are not there, because those who notice you missing are the ones who recognize your worth. When you return, let it not be as someone trying to regain attention, but as someone who is never forgotten. That is how presence is earned. This path requires the courage to disappoint, to say no when yes would be easier, to leave messages unanswered. Longer than others expect to be misunderstood. But every no you offer with conviction is a yes to something higher, to your discipline, your clarity, your priorities. You are not rude, you are not aloof, you are aligned. Every refusal is a form of self-respect. Every boundary is a declaration of value, as fasting sharpens hunger. Rest strengthens performance. Your absence can amplify the weight of your return. When you are not always available, your presence becomes charged. It lands differently. It speaks louder, not because you demand attention, but because you left room for it to grow in your absence. This is not manipulation. This is clarity of self. This is understanding the economics of attention and choosing to spend yours with wisdom. Your value does not increase through quantity, it grows through quality. Do not mistake constant participation for strength. The Stoic builds strength not by doing more, but by doing what matters and ignoring the rest. They preserve their energy for where it can serve best. They do not audition for approval. They do not chase popularity. They stand still and become known by their silence. The Stoics understood that strength comes not from always being available, but from always being intentional. Your power lies not in how many people see you, but in how deeply they feel your presence. When you do show up, that kind of influence cannot be faked. It is earned by withdrawing from the noise, refining your mind, and returning only when purpose calls. You are not here to fill space. You are here to shape it with silence, with timing, with restraint. Let your absence speak volumes. Let your silence draw attention to your principles. Let your return be a reminder that value cannot be rushed, and that respect is built in stillness as much as in action. Chapter 7: The Weight of Words in a World Addicted to Expression. The Stoic measures their words. They understand that speech is not just communication, it is a reflection of the inner self. To speak without intention is to scatter your influence like dust in the wind, but to speak with clarity, with timing, with restraint. That is power, to open your mouth only when you first opened your mind. That is wisdom, and when the mind is still, the mouth learns restraint. When speech flows from silence, it becomes sharper, wiser, and more rooted in self-control. Every word carries weight, or at least it should. But when we talk too much, we dilute the strength of our voice. A constant stream of words numbs the listener. It creates a fog where once there was meaning. We answer questions that don't need answering. We join discussions that don't serve truth. We try to prove ourselves instead of improving ourselves. We exhaust our thoughts before they mature. The Stoic understands that each word is a decision, a choice between clarity and confusion, between stillness and noise. Words are either scaffolding for truth or padding for ego, and the more we pad, the more our essence is buried. The Stoic does not fear appearing disinterested. They fear appearing undisciplined. They know that careless talk is not neutral. It slowly reshapes your character. You begin to chase responses rather than reflect deeply. You begin to speak for applause rather than understanding. You say more, but mean less. And in that dilution, you become forgettable, repeating what everyone else says, reacting to every headline, responding to every slight. These acts erode your dignity. The Stoic remains still, not to appear distant, but to remain anchored. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself to speak only what is necessary, and to say it with simplicity, to be direct, to be firm, to be calm. This was not coldness, it was control. It was the discipline of keeping one's inner world intact while choosing only the essential to bring into the outer world. It was the practice of not letting words outrun thought. The Stoic believes that words should be like tools, used sparingly, effectively, and only when needed. Just as a craftsman does not strike randomly, the Stoic does not speak carelessly. Words once spoken cannot be taken back and must therefore be treated with the gravity of irreversible action. Each sentence is a sculpture, a choice in shaping how we are perceived and remembered. When you are too accessible, you are also too explainable. You constantly feel the need to clarify, to defend, to narrate your every move, but the most respect. Individuals are often those who speak least and do most. They let their actions form the dialogue. They let their discipline write their autobiography. They are not mysterious because they are hiding. They are disciplined because they are building, and the less they say, the more their presence commands. People are drawn to those who seem grounded, who weigh their words like currency, not confetti. Their silence carries more wisdom than the loudest voices. Idle talk, gossip, self-justification. These are cracks in the vessel of your character. Every time you participate in trivial speech, you leak dignity. But quiet, consistency, deliberate speech, and intentional silence. These are reinforcements. They protect your presence. They magnify your focus. They make others lean in when you choose to speak, because you have trained the world to expect purpose in your voice. Your silence becomes suspense. Your words become revelation. The power of a single well-timed sentence can eclipse 1,000 careless ones. Speak like you are chiseling truth into stone. The Stoic chooses words like a sculptor chooses a chisel, one stroke at a time. Not to impress, but to refine. Not to overwhelm, but to reveal. Their words have edges sharp enough to cut through confusion, clean enough to leave no residue. And through this careful discipline, their presence deepens, their voice carries, their speech becomes an event, not a habit. Something rare, something weighty, something remembered. They have mastered the economy of expression. The ability to say more by saying less. Their restraint becomes reputation. Their precision becomes power. They do not fear silence. They honor it. For silence is not a void. It is a mirror. It reflects intention. It creates space for truth. It lets meaning breathe. It is the pause between notes that makes the melody matter. To the Stoics, silence is a form of speech, and often the most powerful one. They know that not every opinion deserves a response. Not every insult warrants a defense, and not every moment needs commentary. Silence is how the wise hold their ground. It is how they protect their peace, conserve their energy, and maintain their direction. So ask yourself, do I speak because I must, or because I'm uncomfortable with silence? Do I talk to be heard or to be understood? Do I communicate to add clarity or to seek validation? These questions are not rhetorical. They are diagnostic. They reveal whether your words come from strength or from need. Are your words building something, or are they just noise to mask your doubt? When your words are few, your actions grow loud. When your mouth is disciplined, your life becomes your message. If your presence is already strong, your words need not be many. Let what you say matter. Let your restraint create space for others to rise. Let your pauses carry more impact than others' paragraphs. Let silence become part of your vocabulary, a deliberate space where meaning settles and depth forms. And when you do speak, let it be with weight, not volume. Let your voice reflect the stillness behind it. Let your words feel, earned, not assumed. Speak as though each word costs something, because it does. It costs presence, clarity, and reputation. Speak as though the breath behind your voice is tied to your identity. As though each syllable is a signature. Restraint reveals mastery. Those who feel the need to fill every silence have not yet mastered their own presence, but those who can hold the room with a glance, with a nod, with a carefully chosen phrase, those are the ones remembered. A single sentence can carry the force of a speech when it is shaped with care. The person who commands silence before they speak commands respect when they do. Let your listeners lean forward, not because you are loud, but because you are rare. The Stoic understands to speak less is not to be invisible. It is to be undeniable. When the moment truly calls for you to be heard, it is to become the voice. People wait for, not the noise they tune out. It is to make your language a form of leadership. To speak less is to resist. The world's pressure to constantly explain and entertain it is to preserve your authority until the time is right. It is to train others to listen with care, because you do not speak carelessly. Your silence becomes a signal, not of disinterest, but of deep awareness and intentionality. When you speak rarely, but with impact, your presence becomes an event. People look up when you talk, not because you've demanded it, but because you've earned it. They lean in not for your volume, but for your discernment. Your restraint becomes magnetic, like the pause before a symphony begins. Your silence heightens anticipation. And when the music plays, when your words arrive, they carry the power of truth that has been forged in stillness. And when that moment comes, let your words like a hammer on stone, precise, deliberate, and impossible to ignore. Let them land with intention and echo with purpose. Let each sentence be built with the gravity of thought, so that when it lands, it leaves an impression. Let your words create stillness, not noise. Say only what strengthens the structure of your life, what supports your purpose, your virtue, your presence, and leave the rest to silence. Let the noise belong to others. Let meaning belong to you. And in doing so, you will not only speak wisely, you will live wisely. Chapter 8, Reclaiming the Sacredness of Time. Time is not a resource. It is your life unfolding to the Stoic. Every hour is a moral decision. Every moment we give away without thought is a small betrayal of who we are and what we could become. The wise man does not ask, "What should I do today?" but "What deserves my time today?" When you are too accessible, your time is no longer yours. It belongs to others. Meetings you didn't need to join. Conversations that serve no purpose, favors extracted from your politeness. Each of these becomes a leak in the vessel of your day, and you may not notice it at first, but over time your clarity fades. Your days begin to feel hollow, stretched thin across commitments that lack soul. The Stoic understands that time is not managed, it is protected. It is guarded like fire in a storm. You must learn to say no without explanation, and yes with full conviction. You do not owe your time to everyone who asks for it. You owe it to the things that move your life in alignment with virtue, clarity, and strength. Begin each day as Marcus Aurelius did, by remembering that your time is not infinite, that you are not guaranteed the evening, that the sun may rise and set only once more, and what you choose to do between those two moments is the essence of who you are becoming. The Stoic doesn't wake up into chaos. They wake up into clarity, and that clarity begins with understanding the cost of every wasted moment. The hour ahead must be used wisely, not frantically, not pleasing others, but anchored in principle and purpose. Guard your first thoughts of the day. Do not let the outside world enter your mind before you have reclaimed it for yourself. Protect the sacred hours of the morning. Use them to shape your mind. Fill them with silence, thought, and intentional routines that strengthen you before the world weakens you. Read wisdom, not noise. Reflect on who you are becoming, not who others think you are. Write not just what happened, but what mattered. Move your body so your mind can move forward with it. Be with yourself before you belong to anyone else. Let the morning become a ritual of self-command, not a race to respond to the world's chaos defend. This time, with the resolve of a century at the gate, the sacred hours are not found. They are created, they are claimed, not inherited. Most people roll into their day by accident. The Stoic rises with awareness. Morning is not just a time of day, it is a mindset. It is where clarity is sharpened, direction is set, and virtue is chosen. Again, without it, the world floods in, and you begin to live someone else's life before you've even begun your own. Preserve the evening for reflection. Use it to prune what does not belong, to review where your time was honored and where it was lost. Let the night be your editor, trimming excess, preparing you to live with sharper focus tomorrow. Let your final thoughts be clean and unburdened. Do not take into sleep what should have been resolved in waking. Let your rest be sacred, not saturated with anxiety. The Stoic closes the day with the same intention. They began it with ownership. Every minute is a vote for the life you are building. Every interaction, every distraction, every delay is a line written in the script of your future. If you treat time cheaply, you will feel worthless because you have handed away the one thing no one can replace. But when you treat time like treasure, your life becomes rich in meaning. It becomes structured, steady, and sacred. Time, when honored, multiplies in value. You achieve more by doing less. You experience more by rushing less. You deepen your life by quieting it. You cannot reclaim wasted time, but you can reclaim what you choose to give. From this moment forward, let today be. The day you draw the line, the gate to your time must be narrow, guarded by intention. Let every yes be earned. Let every no be calm and final, and behind that gate your life must unfold, not in haste, but in harmony with your values. Build a rhythm of focus, and you will find that your days begin to move with grace. Guard your time as you would your soul, because it is chapter 9, the power of a distant presence. Some people enter every conversation, the Stoic does not. Some people react to every comment, post, or gesture. The Stoic watches, not passively, but purposefully. There is immense power in being distant, not disconnected, but discerning. To be distant is to be unavailable for nonsense. It is to remove yourself from emotional tug-of-wars and choose peace instead. It is to let people wonder, to let them reflect, to let your absence say what your words don't need to. When you are not always present, your presence becomes more noticeable. This does not mean withdrawing from life. It means entering life with selectivity. The Stoic is not cold. They are clear. They do not insert themselves into chaos. They bring calm. They do not chase every fire. They light their own lamp. They do not waste their voice in places where silence would serve them better. Their detachment is not rejection, it is reflection. They are not unreachable, but they are rarely available. Without reason to be selective is to understand the value of presence. It is to realize that the more often you are seen, the less seriously you are heard. When Stoic enters a situation, it is not to be seen, but to see. Not to insert opinion, but to absorb truth. When you limit your availability, you sharpen your discernment. Your vision clears. You no longer move with the crowd. You move with intent. In every room you enter, be slow to speak and quick to observe. People reveal themselves through their words and actions. Let them talk. Let them move. Study their posture, their reactions, their inconsistencies. Let your silence become your filter, your tool of discernment. You do not need to respond to everything that stirs your emotion. Most of what people say is noise seeking attention. Most reactions are reflexes, not re-reflections. Let others fill the air. You fill the moment with presence. Your distance is your discipline. It is what gives you the power to respond on your terms, not theirs. It is your filter against the impulsive. In that space between reaction and response, character is forged. That pause is where thought replaces instinct and wisdom, overtakes emotion. To be distant is not to abandon it, is to strengthen your frame. To give up the urge to explain yourself at every turn, to train others that your time and energy are not default commodities, but earned currencies. To remove yourself from situations that demand your energy, but offer no return. To be the calm eye in the hurricane. Unmoved by the winds of public opinion, to influence not with noise, but with weight. To be the presence that shifts the atmosphere, not by speaking, but by simply arriving. To make fewer moves that carry greater force. When people do hear from you, let it be worth the wait. Let your words ripple across silence like stones in still water. Let your speech come from solitude, not social pressure. Let your presence feel deliberate, not impulsive. When they see you, let them feel the gravity of your inner world, the silence you've honored, the strength you've stored, the clarity you've cultivated. Let them realize that you are not absent, you are intentional. You are not cold, you are composed, and because you are rare, you are respected. Chapter 10, The Final Gate. In the end, everything returns to the gate. The boundary between you and the world, who crosses it, what is allowed and what is left out. The Stoic does not guard this gate with paranoia, but with honor. This is not the gate of fear, it is the gate of purpose. This is where presence, energy, time, and speech are either protected or squandered. And it is here, in this sacred threshold, that your future is shaped one choice at a time. Your gate is not just a wall, it is a filter, a test of what is worthy. It separates noise from necessity, distraction from direction, pressure from principle. It is the invisible force that determines how deeply you let the world affect you. Guarding this gate means mastering the art of discernment. It means no longer allowing every impulse, request, or invitation to enter the sacred interior of your life. You do not need to justify your boundaries. They are the architecture of your peace. You do not need to explain your distance. It is the geometry of your clarity. You do not need to apologize for preserving your mind, your spirit, your focus. This is not selfishness, it is stewardship. And in a world that tries to blur every line, the ability to draw and defend your own is a revolutionary act. Boundaries do not push people away. They elevate the quality of those you let in. Every time you say no, you are strengthening the gate. Every time you withdraw with purpose, you are closing the gate to chaos. Every time you speak few words, you are choosing what enters through sound. Every time you walk away, you are redirecting your path toward virtue. These are not passive actions, they are declarations. You are not rejecting the world. You are realigning yourself with your purpose in that restraint. You build power in that separation. You rediscover direction. Let others be everywhere you be here, fully, intentionally, powerfully. Let others chase attention. You chase alignment. Let others broadcast their lives. You build yours quietly. Let others seek validation in crowds. You seek clarity in solitude. Let others burn out. Seeking relevance. You become unshakable by mastering presence. The Stoic does not follow the crowd. They observe it, choose what matters, and move accordingly. They do not react to every noise. They respond to. What aligns your stillness is your advantage. Your distance is your clarity. Your selectivity is your signature. It is the mark of someone who knows their worth and refuses to spend it cheaply. Being selective with your time and energy is not arrogance. It is accuracy. It is knowing what deserves your spirit and what merely demands your attention. The one who guards their presence does not need to shout to be known. Their absence speaks volumes. Their silence holds weight. You don't need to be visible to be valuable. You need to be rooted, grounded in principle, anchored in purpose. Present only when it means something. The Stoics taught that your soul is your responsibility, and that responsibility begins with what you allow in. Protect it, preserve it, discipline it, shape it. Guard it like a treasure, because it is let no one and no thing enter your inner world without having earned the right to be there. Your mind is a sanctuary and your soul is a flame fragile to wind, yet capable of setting the world alight when focused. And each time you choose peace over pressure, silence over noise, purpose over popularity, you are building something eternal. You are laying bricks of virtue in a world that rewards volume over value. In each decision to guard your inner gate, you move further from chaos and closer to character, because at the end of your life, the world will not remember how often you showed up. It'll remember the weight you carried when you did. It will not admire your availability, but your integrity. Not the number of hours you gave, but the depth of the presence you brought. Not how many doors you walked through, but how many you closed to keep yourself whole. The final measure of a life well lived will be carved not in schedules and appearances, but in the quiet strength you cultivated in the moments no one saw. Choose distance, not out of resentment, but out of reverence. Reverence for the finite gift of time, for the purity of a well-guarded soul. Choose silence, not because you lack something to say, but because you are filled with things worth preserving, because what you do not say speaks just as loudly. Choose presence with meaning, not appearance for approval. Let your presence be earned, not expected. Let it surprise with depth, not exhaust with frequency. Choose a life that respects the gate and values the soul behind it. Walk the path of discipline. Walk the path of depth. This is the path of the Stoic. This is how you stop being so accessible and start becoming truly powerful. Thanks for staying with us until the end.